Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy holiday weekend. I'm sure with this weather, everyone is even more excited than usual to celebrate Labor Day. Even though we're still under some restrictions, I'm sure plenty of us will be taking advantage of the beautiful weather and the long weekend. We are here with our Friday Spotlight member. It's Stacy Walton from Capital Investment Group. Hi, Stacy. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Before we get started, just some housekeeping tips. Things are still rolling along here at the association. Two big events are coming up this month, and I want to make sure everyone is aware of what's going on with those. If you haven't heard yet, our golf outing is on September 28th at the Oasis in Loveland. The foursomes are sold out, but there are still plenty of sponsorship opportunities, so please reach out if you are interested in one of those. And even before that, on September 15th, we are having our general membership meeting. That's going to be from 1 to 2 p.m. It is virtual. We have our special guest speaker, Rommel Anakin, and he's talking about the power of happy hour. So I am sure there are plenty of us that will love to get in on that discussion. Like I said, it's going to be on September 15th from 1 to 2 p.m. You will need to receive a Zoom invitation to join that meeting. And you can do that by registering through our website for that event. If you have any questions, of course, reach out. We would love to see so many of you there for both of those events. So please do what you can to get involved. I think by having that GMM in the middle of the day, you can kind of join in and participate without losing out on any of your free off work time. So yeah, just go to our website and register. If you need any help with that, reach out to any of us at the association. So without further ado, Stacy, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Like I said, you are with Capital Investment Group. So why don't you share a little bit first about your title and your company?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm with Capital Investment Group. We're based here in Cincinnati. We're a smaller property management company that have had properties in the tri-state area, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky. We have a new build in Florida as well. We're currently in growth mode. So we've sold off a lot of our older product now and are looking to build, new product. So we've got properties in Louisville now, a new one in Kenwood that's under construction, and like I said, the one that's getting ready to start into lease up down in Florida. So
Awesome.
New marketplace.
Very, very cool. I actually just noticed that you guys got that one in Kenwood, and that one looks very, very cool. So that's exciting.
Yeah, we're excited.
And what is your title? Tell us a little bit about what you do day to day at Capital.
Of course. So I'm the Vice President of Operations. We're a smaller management company, so my position is very hands-on with just about everything. I had previously come from Aimco, where I had a large support system with marketing directors and trainers and all of that jazz. So my title here at Capital Investment Group really includes all of the above items. So whether it's training or on-site or rolling out a new software. Again, I'm the Vice President of Operations, so I really get to pick and choose what vendors we really want to work with, what new software systems we want to try out, new processes. Obviously, the way we lease apartments now is completely different than when I started in the business a handful or so years ago. So everything's really, electronic, and so it's just picking and choosing what really works best for your company, and then depending on the size of your company and how easy it is to implement some of those items. So I wear a lot of different hats, whether it's financials or on the ground helping the leasing staff when need be. I do all of that.
Very cool. And you alluded to it. Would you like to share exactly how many years you've been in the industry?
Oh gosh, so a lot more than 20. I started as a leasing consultant, I want to say in 1997. So it's a handful of years I've been doing that and had the opportunity to learn the industry from the ground up, which I think has made me a much stronger and better leader for the company, knowing what every position holds and how everybody does their job.
Absolutely. I think there's definitely a threshold of time where there's a group of us that started before everything went digital, and there were handwritten maintenance requests and everything was done so differently. And so there's just this generation of us in the industry that remember the old way and have adapted to the new way. So
absolutely. You know what I've found, probably one of the most interesting things is I remember being on site and being a leasing consultant and even an assistant manager on site many moons ago. And Q4 and Q1 were always really slow. Like that was your downtime. Like you could really chill out and you could breathe and all was well in the world. And these days there is no downtime ever. We can't pick out one particular quarter. People are moving 12 months out of the year.
Yes.
And, and everything's very fast paced. There's no time from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. to just chit chat with your cup of coffee or your soda and your donut in the morning. It is on the go from the time that you get up in the morning and you're looking at your emails at home on your phone to the time you go to bed at nighttime, because it's just easier to check emails before you go to bed so you don't come into 100. So it's amazing how much more we tend to fit into our day, and you wonder, gosh, it was so much easier back then.
You just kind of went to work and dealt with it when you were there, and you had no access to what was happening when you weren't there. So
Agreed. Absolutely. It was great to be oblivious.
yeah, ignorance is bliss. um, so having all that experience, is there any particular advice or perspective you would give to the next generation just entering the industry?
Yes, I would say first you still need to listen to some of the old ways that business was done. I think there's a lot of things in the digital world and with today's renters that have gone by the wayside. People these days are afraid to pick up the phone and have a conversation. Everything's via email or it's text. And you know what? That's really great for some renters. But at some point, your follow-up should be a verbal conversation. It's still okay to write a handwritten thank you note occasionally. That's one of the things that I still continue to stress, and it is old school, but how many times do people like to get something in the mail other than a bill? And so I can't say that my team does it to every prospect, but sometimes whether it's just sending out a care package, but probably the biggest thing is people these days and that next generation can't be afraid to have that one-on-one conversation and have a verbal phone call with people. I see it time and time again as we're training new people that they want to text or they want to shoot an email out versus having that person-to-person experience. And it's so much harder to bond with somebody via text. And then so many things, as we all know, can be completely misconstrued. And
Sure.
we see that happen all of the time in business. And then for us older relics that have been around, it's just us learning to adapt to change. I think we have the tendency to want to hold on sometimes and not adapt ourselves. And so it's for us that have been around, it's taking the best of what we learned when we started in the industry, and the tools that we have now in 2020
Yeah.
and really merging the two of those things together.
Yes, I really love that. It just reminds me of so many times where you get so in the weeds with a problem or an issue. And I found that so many times you circle around all these different solutions and you have all these discussions and you add all these new solutions to the mix when really at the end of the discussion, it's like, we really just need to get back to basics. Like, let's not forget there are just certain basic things like a conversation or building a relationship that are always going to be more important. They're always going to be more effective and impactful than, digitally communicating with someone. So I
Agreed,
love
absolutely. And a lot of times it's quicker. You can put it to bed a lot quicker
that.
if you just pick up the phone and call versus 10 emails later and however long it took to do all of that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. And it's even in my business, something that we talk about a lot. So great advice. What about a most memorable experience? I have not read your answers that you sent over. So is there one that sticks out or a time period that you can recall?
Oh gosh, if we're talking about resonant things, we all
Yeah.
have a plethora of stories that we can absolutely tell in regards. And I think at some point somebody will write a book and
Yeah.
gather all of these resonant experiences out. But probably one of my most memorable, albeit just a tinge bit sad, was I managed one of the high rises. It was a little older down here in Cincinnati. I was the regional at the time, and we had two different resident phone calls from obviously two different people. And one had been a resident complaining in regards to they had a rat in their apartment. that they took care of it. They took care of the rat. And like, well, okay, well, you're on the 17th floor. We don't normally have rats, but okay, walk me through this. And like, no, 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 I took care of it, beat it with a broom, threw it
Oh,
down the trash chute. To be followed a couple of hours later by the resident who was missing their pet ferret. And yes, yes. So it ends up my resident who was an
this
older
is why I should
resident,
read these answers first. I'm
and
sorry.
tell the difference of what was what, and didn't have their glasses in,
Oh
had
my gosh.
another resident's ferret to death and had picked it up and thrown it down. And
Oh,
so there is that, see, yes, exactly. There's that part of you that you laugh, but then you cover your mouth because you're like, oh, that didn't just happen. And you
no.
empathize because obviously you feel so bad for the pet and you feel so bad for the owner. And then on the other end, you've got this resident who's just like, no, I just took care of it. No problem.
Yes.
Just want to let you know.
You win the award. This is why we ask this question. I am like crying right now because I'm trying to contain my reaction. I really need to start reading these ahead of time. But yes, people, when you do these interviews, this is the story that we want. Bravo.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes, it was awful. I mean, what do you do? And that poor ferret who had just been loved their entire life being chased by a crazy lady with a broom.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, yes.
Wait, so did the resident find out what happened to their ferret?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have a choice, and then it was a whole nother story to go rooting through the trash to get the bodies that there could be a burial. Like it didn't just end like in 30 minutes. Like this ongoing thing, and we had a ceremony and what have you. And
wow,
yeah,
it's a memorable story. That's
absolutely
could be its own sitcom episode right there. So.
Oh yeah, and 20 years later, it still has stuck with me. Yes, absolutely.
Oh my goodness, that's incredible.
Yes.
So kind of moving away from your professional life and moving into your personal life, let's learn a little bit more about you. What is your favorite pastime or hobby, or how do you like to spend your free time?
Sure. Well, I have, a husband and a 12-year-old son who's gargantuan. Pierce is 5'8" now and weighs what mommy weighs. So, and dad's 6'3", so gargantuan. You can't keep the child in food. But we love to travel. So we've had the opportunity to travel to a lot of different places, and we're very fortunate and blessed because we only have one child, so we can afford to do so. So we've traveled to a lot of different places as a family. We also all three scuba dive. When Pierce was 10, we got his junior certification so he can dive with us. And last summer, we had the opportunity to dive in Greece in the Mediterranean, which was a fun experience. It was different. We typically dive in the Caribbean, or Aruba, or Mexico, or somewhere like that. So the Mediterranean was much colder water and different fish to look at, a little bit smaller. But that's what we like to do as a family. We like to travel and hopefully show the child the world so that someday he wants to be successful and not sit on the sofa and game for a living, and really get out there. So we love to travel. Greece was one of our favorite places to travel to.
So that reminds me, I'll skip down to our other question about your best vacation. Is that it?
I would say it's a toss-up between Greece, which we really, really liked Greece, and Ireland. I loved Ireland. We did Ireland and Scotland at the same time, and we spent a week in Ireland first and went to Scotland. And I will tell you, I had tears in my eyes when we had to get on that plane to go to Scotland. I loved everything about Ireland. We had wonderful weather. I mean, it would rain a little bit, no different than many places. It would rain a bit, but it was just green and just gorgeous. The people were as wonderful as could be. The food wasn't quite what we were used to, and they served potatoes literally with everything, including pizza, because they're big potato growers there. But it was just wonderful. Everybody was gracious, and it was just absolutely gorgeous. And some of the scenery, there's castles on every corner. The cliffs of Moher were just spectacular. So we loved everything about it. But then, you go to Greece and you see, all of the relics, and you really understand when you're looking at the Parthenon, how young as a country we really are.
Mhm.
and how really insignificant we are in regards to that there's been life out there for 1,000 years, and architecturally what they could build. It's absolutely amazing to see all of those wonderful things. And the Eiffel Tower's cool and all of that jazz, but when you really look at the Parthenon, and you wonder how in the heck they built that sucker,
Right.
hundreds of years ago, and at the top of the hill, at the top of the Acropolis, it's just amazing and unfathomable to figure out how they would do that.
Right. That is so, so amazing. And I love what you're saying about just making it, putting everything into perspective and kind of having a travel experience where you really get to do some deep thinking and understand the world on a bigger scale than just our little bubbles. And I think more than ever, that's so important right now
It's
to
it's
keep that
it's
in mind.
so important, and I think what in today's climate and what's happening here in the United States, I think people all in, they don't realize how fortunate we are to have been born or live in the United States. I just don't, I couldn't say that enough, that I don't, when you travel overseas, and gosh, even those people that, have had the opportunity to travel to Mexico, and you've got to, land in Cancun and drive through some unsavory areas.
Yep.
I think that, even our poor are not poor compared to poor in other countries. And I think that people lose perspective of that. Our poor have cell phones and televisions and sometimes cars, and we've lost we've lost so much in the, I don't know. We've just lost so much as a country, and are not appreciative with the blessings that we do have, and that's a shame.
Yeah, that worldview is so important. So that's just great information.
Yeah.
So moving on with your personal details, how about, gosh, you've traveled everywhere. What would be your favorite food, or do you have a favorite local restaurant?
Gosh, we love everything. I would say one of the reasons why Greece really ranked up there is the food was phenomenal in Greece. Everything was very fresh because you're right there on the water. And in the scheme of things, and I love junk food and everything pastry and ice cream and this, that, or the other, but it was so easy to eat healthy there.
Mhm.
Because everything is the fresh tomatoes and the onions and the feta cheese. We had the opportunity there to do a food tour, which Pierce and
Oh,
Lynn were absolutely not on board with doing whatsoever. But their food was so much different than what we traveled, other places that we traveled to, that I'd had the suggestion from a girlfriend to do a food tour, a cooking tour. And so we'd done a half a day food tour and had the opportunity to just go to, I think we went to 12 different places and try just a snippet of things from different places, which was great. We did that the second day that we were in Greece. We were there a couple of weeks. And then we knew when we went to a restaurant what to order, what we
yeah.
liked, what we didn't like, and went back to a couple of the places twice. So I would definitely say Greece in that, and there were a lot of fresh herbs. So
Mhm.
you had your thyme and your oregano and your olive oils and things like that. I
Mhm.
would say places like Ireland, the food was and even England, the food's a lot more bland. In the United States, we like things spicy and we like buffalo sauce. And when
Yeah.
we came back from like Ireland and Scotland, and when we'd done England, like I was craving Buffalo Wild Wings, like I
Yeah.
wanted buffalo sauce. So that was something when we were in Greece that I craved. We had a couple of seafood restaurants that we ate at that were right on the coast, that served sun-dried octopus, and it had
Wow.
been grilled, and it was literally like cutting through a hamburger. So
Oh,
people's experience a lot of times with octopus is it can be chewy,
yeah.
um, and or rubbery, and that is not the case if it's nice and fresh. And so Greece, hands down, I think would be our favorite for food for all of us, for
Yeah.
all.
I mean, Stacy, I have to say, I think without even realizing it, you just described my perfect day. A food tour in Greece, I think, is my new ideal way to spend one day if I was ever given the opportunity. That sounds incredible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and they introduced you to Turkish coffee, which is kind of like our espresso.
Mhm.
So they introduced you to Turkish coffee, and then we went to sweet places, and then we went to, places that served more of an entree. And so it was great. And of course, the Greek language is so much different than ours, and it's not based off, it's not one of the Romance languages. You can't even differentiate their menus whatsoever if it's not written in English. So it was really important for us to really try some new things.
Sure.
It was wonderful. Yes.
Very cool. How about any pets? Does your family have a pet?
We do. We have a Springer Spaniel, Remington, who is also the love of our life. He's just spectacular. He is 3. He's a hunting dog. So funny thing about Remington is I have a hunting dog who cannot swim and he has allergies. So we have to go in for seasonal allergy shots. And when we take him to the lake, and he loves the lake, but when we take him to the lake, you have to put a life jacket on him because the poor dog. So it's really funny to have. Oh yeah, it's so funny to have a hunting dog that you can't really take out to a lot of places. So, but
I've been there. I had a dog who had allergies, and I remember thinking all the time, I'm spending more on my dog's medical condition than I have on my kids so far. So he is,
and they are a member of the house. If especially if you're raised with pets, like your pet isn't. He's not a dog. He's our second child by all means, and thinks he is. He sleeps in the bed. He goes everywhere. He has his own. We made sure prior to Remington we had 3 Cocker Spaniels, and we had mom, dad, and when we bred them, they had 1 puppy. So. They were only social with each other. So we made sure with Remington that we socialized him with all the dogs in the neighborhood and took him out for walks. So it's quite funny because Remington has his own social life, and he has 3 or 4 neighbors that he likes to go visit, or that dogs will come to our backyard and we'll visit. And his girlfriend Coco is a Labradoodle. And so when we get near Coco's house, we literally will let him off the leash and he will go stand by her front door. So we keep joking that one of these days we need to teach him how to ring the doorbell so that Coco can come out and play.
You can bring Coco some flowers sometimes.
Yes, absolutely. So between Pierce's social life and Remington's social life, we stay quite busy. It's amazing.
I'm sure. I love that. I just watched a show. I can't remember what it was, but it was kind of a story about a dog that would go over to the neighbor's house every day. He had this routine and he would do it. And as he got older, everybody just he was like both families' dogs. And it was just the cutest thing because he had his own routine and his own little life. And it reminds me so much of that story. So what about sports? You guys are so busy. Do you have any time to enjoy local sports or?
Nobody's enjoying local sports these days. I would say that I'm about over all the professional teams. I'm just over everything these days. We are going to go into basketball morning if UK does not play. And so we're both from Lexington. So we're both big UK Wildcat fans. Like we bleed blue. And so not having basketball in the Final Four was a big deal last year. So it's really sad if we're not going to have basketball again. But, I will tell you, it's been nice not to be preoccupied. If there's one thing that I believe many of us have taken from COVID is to really get back to the basics on a personal level as well. Yeah. I had heard one of the local radio jockeys, talking about, now's a good opportunity to really see what you want to introduce back into your life because everything was cut out of your life. And probably much like you, I spent a lot more time with family. I did a lot more cooking. We spent a lot more time outside and it was nice. I don't remember it ever being slow like this because as we talked about earlier, in business, everything is so quick and it's so fast paced. And that's how it is in our personal lives as well. So it has been nice, honestly. That's the one thing I would take from COVID on a personal level is it's been nice to cut those things out. So while we will go into a little bit of mourning if we don't have fall basketball, I will tell you I'm okay that we didn't renew our football tickets this year for the Bengals. And I now have my Sundays completely back, and if they're on TV, great, I'll watch them, and if they're not, that's okay too. Because it frees up my Sunday. So I'm just looking at everything with rose-colored glasses these days. I think we all need to be thankful for our health and everybody that's around us, and just roll with the punches, because that's all we can really do. Because if we're not laughing about it right now, we're going to cry. So
And I think we all have moments of both, but I couldn't agree more. I am right there with you. I've had a couple conversations with friends lately, where, it's kind of funny what you find that you don't miss. And, all of a sudden the big social life and doing all the things was fun when you were doing it, but there's just something so nice about not even having the option and sitting at home or sitting on a patio or a porch with your smaller bubble and
Mhm.
enjoying that so much more. It's funny how we all kind of adapt and adjust to things and figure out.
Exactly. Absolutely. Human spirit. We're very adaptable by all means.
Absolutely. Kids too. Kids even more than grown-ups, I think. So
Agreed. You know what? They're not going to look back on this and freak out about anything. It's
no,
us that worry for, the seniors that didn't get their day or the kindergartners that didn't walk by with a little tassel. I mean, it's all really, it's us that are used to the way things are that are having
right,
more problems with it than the younger ones.
right. Well, and just to play the devil's advocate, I always think like their memory is even more unique, like you graduated or you did this the year that you couldn't. So there's an even more unique and special story for them. So
Absolutely.
it's all about perspective for sure. How about concerts? This is one of my favorite subjects. What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Gosh, I have not been to a whole lot of concerts. The last one I did go to was probably 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I took Pierce to see Katy Perry. So, funny story about Pierce. When Katy Perry did the Victoria's Secret halftime show at Christmas,
Mm-hmm,
probably 5 years or so ago,
mm-hmm.
I want to say, well, it's been longer than that because Pierce was 3 or 4. I forget what it was, but it happened to be on television. And Pierce fell in love as a little boy with Katy Perry. And, she had
Sure.
all the extravagant outfits, et cetera, et cetera. So for the longest time, until our cable box had to be replaced for a period of 3 or 4 years, that halftime show was recorded so he could watch that. Love that. So there was one year, and this is a cute little segue story, but there's one year that we were going out to California, and when we were checking in at the Delta counter, he had his ears on, and because we'd previously
Mm-hmm.
been, and the gate agent made the comment to Pierce about, oh gosh, looks like you're going to California. What are you going to do? And Pierce said, well, I'm going to go see my girlfriend. And the gate agent said, oh, you're going to go see Minnie Mouse. And he's like, no, I'm going to go see Katy Perry. So then segue to, she came to the Louisville Young Center, and we bought tickets for Pierce to go see Katy Perry. So that was the last concert that I went to, was all of these screaming girls and their mothers, and then me with my screaming little boy because he just loved Katy Perry.
That's so cute though.
So that was the last one that I went to.
Yeah.
There's not time. I don't watch a lot of television.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a child, and he's got sports and you name it, and work. We all work after we get home from work. So, I don't have time to watch a whole lot of television or see a lot of concerts or any of those things anymore. When I was younger, absolutely. But gosh, these days there's no time for any of that. I've not even read a good book in years.
I'll tell you what, the free time you do have, it sounds like you're spending it in like the coolest ways. So I don't think
Trying.
there's any judgment about no books or TV because you're doing some pretty cool things. And then we always ask this question. Well, we let you decide if you want to answer it, but if you were an animal, what would you be?
Oh, wow. Okay. I definitely would be a bird. I just think the thought of flying and being free, and I think we've probably all had a dream at some point in your life where you're
Yeah.
flying.
Yes.
And I just think I remember every time I've woke up from those dreams, um, just a really lighthearted freedom that you
Mhm.
had by being able to fly.
Yeah.
And presuming there's no people that are shooting you down and bird dogs like Remington to drag you.
Wearing a life jacket, scaring you.
Yeah. As long as you're not, a dove and somebody wants to shoot you and eat you, I think you're probably pretty good to go. But
Yeah.
I would say a bird for sure. Just the freedom of just being able to glide and fly, I think would
Mhm.
just be amazing.
I totally get that. Yeah, I think that's something we all think about at some point, and I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
So you've shared so much about your family, so thank you for, letting us in on that. Are there any other interesting details about yourself that you want to share with everyone that's out there watching?
No, I don't. I think that I'm pretty much an open book. I would say that for those of you that have known me as long as I've been in Cincinnati and the industry, I would see that I've kind of through the years I've opened up to people a little bit more. I've always been a little bit more standoffish, and I wouldn't say that I'm not a people person. I love to lease apartments and get out there, but as far as getting out, we'll say in the apartment industry and really socializing or mixing and mingling
Mm,
at happy hour before meetings. That's not something that I used to do. And I've learned as I've gotten older to really appreciate all of the people that I've met in the industry. Back 20 years ago, I would have never gone on to be an RVP with the National Apartment Association.
yes,
That's something or a situation I would have put myself in. Because while I'm certainly happy getting up and speaking in front of a room of 200 or 300 people, as far as making those personal connections and those relationships, I'm a little bit more bashful in
sure,
regards to those things, which
sure.
surprises people a whole lot more. So I
Yeah.
want to say in the last few years, I've tried to come out of my shell a little bit more on a one-on-one basis versus in a large room full of people.
I appreciate you saying that so much for several reasons. And here are a couple of those reasons. The last question that we ask everyone is, what would you say that other people, your coworkers, your teams, how would they describe you? And when I was thinking about that, it's just so funny that you say that, because personally, I'll open up a little bit and say, I remember when I started really getting into the association, when I went over to the supplier side, and you were just finishing up your role with the association, and someone had like said, that's Stacy Walton, she's with Capital Investment Group, and from afar, and I think I introduced myself or something, to me you immediately were someone that stood out as like a mentor figure. I was like, she just appears to like be so together, and I have always personally just thought you were just like a goal. So I feel like it's always good to tell people that there are people out there that are noticing and envying and looking up to you, and I never thought you were standoffish. I just thought that you carried yourself so professionally, and there was a sophistication and just an intelligence. So I was honored when I had the opportunity to interview you today, because there's just certain, especially women out there in our industry, that I think have so much to offer on so many different levels, and to be able to share that with especially the next generation of people that are maybe just getting into leasing and they have some lofty goals. I think you're just such a great example of how attainable that is if your mind's in the right place, and you're playing your cards right, and doing exactly what you've been doing. So thank you for that personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what would you say that other people besides that are saying about you, or would say to your personality?
Well, yeah, I hope they say, I
Tricky
hope they
question.
say good things,
Yeah.
first of all. But again, I would say, especially being on the supplier side, you could appreciate this. There's a lot of times that I really, I did not give the time to people that I probably should have given to people, because we all move a mile a minute, and
Yeah.
I'd be the first person that says, gosh, if it's not something I'm looking for today, I'm not even going to meet with that person. I don't want to hear a thing about it. I'll call them when I need it, kind of thing.
Yes.
And what I've learned as I've moved up in the association is I've learned, and I think as I've gotten older, I've learned a little bit more patience. And I would like to think that my staff would say the same thing about me.
Mhm.
Having started as a leasing agent many, many moons ago, it doesn't bother me to pick up the phone when I'm on site. I was in Orlando last week, and I had the opportunity. I just wasn't happy with how some of the phone calls were going. And so I picked up the phone for the next several phone calls, and I had them really listen to me and how I was doing it. So I would like to think that my immediate people that I work with would say that I'm always willing to lend a hand. if they have a question, if they need something in the middle of the night. I'm a person just like they are. I don't micromanage. That's just not in my personality. But I'm always willing to hop in and brainstorm with them, answer the telephones, go show apartments.
Yeah.
So I would like to think that all of my staff would say that they enjoy working with me and that I'm a fair person. On the association side, I would say that some people would say I'm kind of hard, a little bit harder to get to know. I've worked on that, like I said, in the last couple of years or so. And it's more just comes from a perspective that and I wouldn't call myself bashful, but I would probably say that I'm a little bit just not as interesting maybe as people would think. So, to sit down and meet with somebody,
Mhm.
I sometimes find it a struggle, and I don't want to have that conversation with somebody and ask about the weather. Because that just seems so silly.
Yeah.
So I've really tried opening up and sharing a little bit more about myself. And I will tell you, from my perspective, when I get to know somebody or I do ask, how's your family going? How is everything going? It's because I really care. I think there's a lot of times people will ask you those questions and then they're looking over your shoulder to the person behind you and where their next transition is going to be. They have that conversation with you. So I will tell you, when I have a conversation with somebody, I'm all in the moment. I'm not going to be looking over my shoulder for the next best person to have that conversation with.
Yeah. I love that there's something so authentic about that. And it's just, it's ironic because almost 100% of the people that we ask to do these interviews, there's so much humbleness there and they think I don't have anything special to share about myself. And I've yet to walk away from one without like a renewed sense of camaraderie and friendship. And like, you have a ton of cool stuff going on. So it's just so cool to get to know everyone on this level. Thank you so much for spending your morning with us. I think we all enjoyed learning a little bit more about you. Again, like I was saying, if you're someone who's kind of on the fence about doing this, it's really painless, especially when you're in the comfort of your own home or your office. So take it from me and Stacy. We would love to see you here. And to everyone else, have a great holiday weekend. We look forward to seeing you all virtually at the GMM on September 15th, and hopefully you can make it out to Oasis for that golf outing on the 28th. Happy Friday, happy Labor Day. Have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks, Stacy. Bye.
Bye.